guys, welcome back. Today I wanted to do a video on the most essential brushes that I would recommend to a beginner that are also the most affordable, the most bang for your buck. I want to show you guys several different options, for like bronzing brushes or blush brushes from like different affordable brands. And you know, you can always expand on this, but this is like the core brushes that I feel like everybody needs, from a beginner to an advanced person. They are some of my favorite makeup brushes. Even though this is really hard for me to narrow things down and really organize this, I've tried to organize it the best way that I can. So let's just go ahead and jump into this. The first brush that you will need, you know, with your makeup starter kit is a foundation brush or a makeup sponge, like a beauty blender. So me personally, I like to apply my foundations and concealers with beauty blenders, like makeup sponges. So this one here is the Real Techniques Miracle Complexion Sponge. I love this. This is one of my favorite makeup sponges. Now, some other ones that I would recommend that I don't currently have on me right now, the L'Oreal Infallible Beauty Blender, I recommend that one. The Flower Beauty makeup sponge is also really good. So those are the three that I would recommend. And the good thing about the makeup sponges, like especially this Real Techniques one, you can turn it on its side and use it for under eye concealer, or use the flat side for that. You get these damp before you use them, and usually what I do is, like, the next day when I go to use this, like it has makeup in it from the day before, I'll just go ahead and wash the makeup out. So like I use a bar of soap and, you know, just get the soap, really work it in there and just rinse that out, since I have to get it damp anyway to use. So I have videos on how to go about using these makeup sponges and how to clean them. So I'll link those videos down below if you are a beginner. I made those videos several years back, but they are still super helpful, and I have people tell me, like, comment on those videos all the time, tell me how helpful they were. So I'll link those down below, and I'll try to link any beginner type of video that I have down below if you are a beginner and, you know, want to, you know, see my other videos. So if you don't want to use makeup sponges, some makeup brushes that I would recommend for beginners for foundation. This e.l.f, I want to say that this is called Perfect Foundation Brush or something like that. It doesn't have the name on the brush, so I'll just annotate it in the video. This is a really good brush for blending out, like buffing out foundation. Now, this isn't the most dense brush in the world. Like, it is pretty dense for like an e.l.f brush. So if you can splurge on a better foundation brush, I would recommend this Morphe M439 brush. This brush is kind of the same concept as the e.l.f one. It's just a little bigger and it's more dense. So I feel like this is even better with blending out foundation. And the more dense a makeup brush is, the easier it's going to blend the foundation, the more flawless look it's going to give you, because, you know, you're not going to see any brush strokes. It's just going to really buff the foundation in really nice. So I would highly recommend this. I know it's a little bit more expensive than this, but this is worth it. So if you can splurge, get this one. You need a good powder brush to set your foundation, and the one that I use every single day is my e.l.f powder brush. And I love this brush because it is a flat top brush. It is really dense. Some people also use this brush as a foundation brush. So, you know, maybe if you didn't want to use this brush and you wanted dual use for your brush, you could use it as that, but it would be hard to kind of use it for foundation and then powder after. So you'd probably have to buy two of these, but this would also be good for foundation. But the reason why I like this for powder is because since it is flat, it just really like presses the powder into the foundation and gives you a really flawless airbrush look. And also it doesn't disturb the foundation since it is flat. So that is the one that I would recommend for powder. Like I said, I use this every day to set my foundation. Everybody needs a good brush for setting under eye concealer. Now, sometimes I don't set my under eye concealer, so maybe this is a brush that you don't necessarily have to have in a makeup starter kit, but, you know, if you're really trying to get into makeup, I do recommend this. Now the brush that I normally use, which I would recommend, but I don't even know the brand of this brush. I think I got it at Walmart, and as you can see, it's broken, but I love the shape of brushes like this. This is the e.l.f. blush brush, and it is bigger than this other one, but I love brushes that are this shape to set under eye concealer, you know, with the setting powder. So I would recommend either one of these brushes. Like I said, I don't know the brand of this, got it at Walmart, so maybe look for a brush that's like this shape there. But yeah, the e.l.f. blush brush, if you can't find that one, is also great for setting under eye concealer. And I use that sometimes if that one's dirty, or you know, I want to use something different. Then when it comes to bronzing, everybody needs a good bronzing brush. And I have a couple of different options for this, just depending on what you want the brush for, or maybe what your price range is. So the Real Techniques powder brush. This brush is awesome for bronzing, and for bronzing like larger areas. So, you know, just buff in your bronzer, and it's not too dense, so it does a really good job of blending the bronzer out. You want a really dense brush for foundation application, but when it comes to like, I've got like a hair, when it comes to like your blush or bronzer, you want the brush to not be too super dense, because if it is, it's really gonna put the product in one area, and then it's gonna be hard to buff it out. So a brush that's kind of a medium density is what you want for like your blushes or your bronzers, highlights, things like that. So this brush is really good. Now, most of the times I do want my bronzer to be slightly a little more concentrated. Like this really gets it everywhere. So when I want a super bronzy look, I use this. But when I want a really focused bronzed look, I like to use my Morphe R2 brush. And as you can see, like the brushes are shaped kind of similar. Like they have that similar shape to them, but the Morphe one is a little bit more pinched. I don't know if you can see on top, like it's not quite as wide as the Real Techniques one. So this is gonna allow you to be a little more precise, but at the same time, it has a good like tapered shape to it, so it's gonna really blend your bronzer out. So if you can spend a little more extra money, I do recommend the Morphe R2. If you can't afford this, the Real Techniques powder brush is also really good. I mean, I use this all the time as well. So either one of these two, I do recommend for bronzing. If you think you might wanna get into contouring, the brush or the brushes that I would recommend for that. So this Real Techniques buffing brush, which a lot of the Real Techniques brushes, they usually come in sets. Like this one is sewed by itself, but like these brushes here, which I'm about to talk about, they come in a set together with this little detailer brush and then like a foundation brush. Now, I was gonna recommend the little detailer brush when it comes to the eye brushes. So really the only brush out of that set that you wouldn't really use is the foundation brush. I'm sure you could probably find uses for that brush. I just never use that from that set. So yeah, I guess it really just depends on what's more cost effective for you, but I do feel like it's better to get these brushes in a set than to buy them separately. But the buffing brush, I love to use this for like contouring. So like contouring here and kind of down the sides of my nose a little bit, which I don't really contour the sides of my nose. I kind of just use this more for like bronzing up. But what I like to use this for is for like contouring here. Now I know that Real Techniques also makes the Sculpting brush, which you can use for contouring as well. But honestly, I feel like with this brush, sometimes it can be a little difficult to contour with because it'll put down the product really like concentrated because it is a very dense brush, where this brush, you know, is not quite as dense and it just does a better job of like buffing and blending it out. So I guess it just really depends on the look that you want. If you want like a really chiseled look, you can get the Sculpting brush. If I'm not using this brush, then I use my Morphe M437 brush. Now the Morphe M437 is slightly a little bit more precise than the Real Techniques brush. They are the same sort of shape. It's just that the Real Techniques one is a little bigger. So, you know, it's gonna give you a little bit more natural kind of look, where this one's gonna be more precise. So maybe if your face is smaller, you might wanna get the Morphe one, but they give you the same sort of effect. So I don't know, I mean, I go back and forth with these brushes. I probably tend to use the Morphe M437 the most when it comes to contouring, but I also use this buffing brush too. So really just depends. Like before I bought my Morphe brushes, I just used this all the time, and I mean, it looked just as good. So it really just depends on your budget and what you're going for, but that's what I would recommend for that. For blush brushes, so my favorite type of brush to use for applying blush is angled blush brushes. And I know that sometimes people use these for like contouring too, but I like to use them for blush. So my favorite blush brush is actually my Sigma one. I swear I probably use this one the most, but like for an affordable like dupe or option, and I do use this brush a lot as well. This is the e.l.f. angled blush brush. So this is the one that I would recommend. If you can't afford this brush, I mean, I know this brush is super affordable. It's like $3 or $4. But if you need something even more affordable than that, the Wet n Wild angled blush brush is 99 cents. So it's just that for me, I kind of like the e.l.f. one better because I feel like the shape of it's a little better. It's not quite as flimsy as the Wet n Wild one. But I mean, I still use this Wet n Wild angled blush brush all the time. So I mean, I guess it just depends on your budget. I mean, the quality of the brushes, I feel like the e.l.f. is slightly a little bit better quality than the Wet n Wild brush, but they're gonna give you the same sort of effect. So that's what I would recommend for blush. And I know that Real Techniques also makes their blush brush, which I like this, but I don't tend to reach for this one very much because I just love angled blush brushes the best. So that's another option if you'd rather have a brush shaped like this one. So moving on to highlighting brushes. So the brush that I used to use all the time for highlighting came in like that set, that Real Technique set, is the contour brush, which you could probably also use this brush for contouring as well, but I would use it for highlighting. But now I've recently bought this Sigma tapered highlighter F35 brush because I was trying to get a brush that was a little more precise than this one, because like as you can see with the Real Techniques brush, like it doesn't really come to a point. So sometimes it can like blend the highlight out too far. So, you know, I bought this one, and then I had a bunch of makeup brushes in my freelance makeup kit, and I was going through them because some of them needed to be washed. And then I saw this brush from Morphe, and this is the M438. And I was like, oh my gosh, that looks just like the Sigma brush that I just bought. So this is an exact dupe to the Sigma brush. This is the Morphe, like I said, it's the Morphe M438 brush. So if you can splurge a little bit on a highlighting brush, this is the one that I would recommend over the Real Techniques one. But if you were gonna buy the set, this one will work just as good. It's just that you have to be a little bit more careful with your placement of your highlights. But this is awesome because you can just put it down and then blend it out with the way that the brush is shaped. I'm not for sure the price on this compared to the Sigma one, but I do know it is a little bit more affordable. So, you know, if you're looking for a dupe to this one, this Morphe one is really good. Moving on to like eyebrow and eye brushes. And I tell you what, like having good brushes really makes the biggest difference when it comes to your makeup application. And whenever I started my YouTube channel, like I've always been into makeup, but before I started YouTube, it was like I didn't really realize the importance of good eyeshadow brushes. And once I bought some really nice ones, it really took my eyeshadow to the next level. So having good eyeshadow brushes can really make the difference in your eyeshadow looks. So I'm gonna share with you guys like the ones that I use all the time that are affordable and that I feel are essential that everybody needs to have in their collection. For eyebrows, the e.l.f. Eyebrow Duo Brush. This brush is really good, you know, for filling in your brows. So I like a brush that has a spoolie on one side and an angled brush on the other. Now, me personally, I like my Anastasia brow brush. I don't know where I put that brush. I had it a second ago. and then I lost it again. Oh, here it is. The Anastasia brow brush in number 12. This is the one that I love and use all the time. I don't really use this e.l.f. one anymore since I got this brush. And honestly, if I had to recommend one over the other, this one is definitely worth the money just because the brush on this is so precise, where this e.l.f. one isn't quite as skinny and precise as this brush. So if you can splurge, get this Anastasia brow brush in number 12. But if you cannot afford this, because I know not everybody can, especially when you're first starting out, this e.l.f. brush works pretty good. Now I would recommend using this more for like powder eyebrow products than like pomades, just because of the fact that it's not extremely precise. If you wanted a more precise angle brush, now this doesn't come with a spoolie, but this is the Essence eyeliner brush, like their angled eyeliner brush. Now this brush is just as precise as the Anastasia one. So if you're looking for maybe an affordable option for that, now like I said, it doesn't have the spoolie, so you might need to still buy this for the spoolie, or you could always buy some of those disposable spoolies, and you can kind of get those in bulk, which I have a thing here. You can get, well, where's it at? Oh, here they are. You can like buy these little spoolies in bulk from like Amazon or at Sally's for like pretty cheap. So that might be a better option maybe for you starting out, to get this Essence brush because it is more precise, and then just buy spoolie separately. But you know, if you want something that's kind of more all in one, then this e.l.f. brush is pretty decent for that. So that's my recommendations on that. Everybody needs a good shader brush. And honestly, when it comes to affordable shader brushes, usually what I go for is concealer brushes. I just find that they apply the shadows the best. And this e.l.f. concealer brush, I use this all the time to apply shadows to my eyelids. I love the shape of this. It's the same sort of shape as my Sigma E60 brush, as you can see. The e.l.f. one is a little smaller than the Sigma E60, but I use both of these all the time for applying eyeshadow all over the lid. Now I know the Sigma one is quite a bit more expensive. This e.l.f. one I think is like $3 and it works just as good. So this is what I would recommend for that. Now if you wanted an even more affordable option, the e.l.f. eyeshadow brush, this is $1. So maybe if you can't afford the $3 brush, you could get the $1 brush. Now I just tend to like the black brush over the other one just because the brush is a little larger and it's a little bit more precise. It's a little easier to work with, but I do use this brush from time to time. I feel like everybody needs like a more precise eye shading brush, and usually what I use for that is this Wet n Wild small concealer brush. This thing, I get so much use out of it. Sometimes I'll just use this brush to apply eyeshadow all over my lid. Other times I like to use it to just be precise and apply eyeshadow to the outer like corner area. So I definitely feel like both of these brushes are essential to every makeup kit. Now this is another brush that's also really good for applying eyeshadow all over the lid. So maybe if you bought this set, you wouldn't necessarily have to buy the e.l.f. brush. You could just use the Real Techniques one. But whenever you get the defining eye brush set, it comes with all these brushes. So this is the shading brush. This blending brush is so good for being precise in the outer V. I use this all the time for that. And you can also use it in your crease as well. It's just that for my eye shape, sometimes this brush isn't really big enough for blending in the crease. I mainly just like to use it in the outer V because it's smaller. So this brush is really good. And I definitely recommend a eyeliner brush, like a really precise eyeliner brush. And this one is so good. It is the best eyeliner brush that I have in my makeup collection. You can do like a really thin eyeliner, and you can also do a really nice wing with it. This also is really good for doing precise like lip liner if you're wanting to use a brush. So I definitely feel like this is a must-have for a beginner. This brush here, I don't tend to use it a whole lot because it's a really large brush, and so it's kind of hard to use this for a shader brush to apply eyeshadow on the lid and not get it up in the crease because it is so big. But what I like to use this brush for is like on those days when I know I'm just gonna wear like one eyeshadow and that's it. This is really good for that because you can just swipe it on real quick, also kind of blend in the crease a little bit, and you're good to go. And then the eyelash comb, which is really good for getting clumps out of your mascara. You can also use it to comb through your eyebrows. I don't really use it for that much. I just mainly use it for combing through my eyelashes. So this is a really great set. I think it's perfect for beginners. So like I said, you need a good shader brush. You need a good outer V crease brush. And then when it comes to like a blending brush in your crease, the one that I highly recommend and is definitely worth the little extra money, the Morphe M433 brush, and I use this just about every single day. This is what I use to blend eyeshadow in my crease, and I also can use this as an outer V brush as well, so it doubles as both. This is a dupe to the Sigma E25 blending brush. So let me show you. So the brush that's got the purple on it is the Sigma E25 blending. So as you can see, like the Morphe one is maybe slightly a little bit more fluffy, but essentially it is the same brush and I use them for like the same thing. And this Morphe brush is $6. I mean, I know it's a little bit more expensive than like e.l.f. or Wet n Wild, but it is definitely worth the money. And you need, if nothing else with your eyeshadow brushes, like if you were to only get 3 eyeshadow brushes, I would recommend a good shader brush, a good crease brush, which is this one, and a good brush for like smudging the lower lash line. So those are like essential, like, you know, if you got nothing else, get those. So yeah, I highly recommend this. Definitely worth the splurge. Not that it's really that much money, you know, compared to some makeup brushes out there, but I know for a beginner, like maybe $6 for a brush seems like a lot for like one makeup brush. Okay, some other brushes that I feel like are essential, you know, to do good eyeshadow looks. An angled brush is really good for applying, you know, products as your brow bone highlight and also as an inner corner highlight. And this is the e.l.f. Professional Defining Eye Brush. This is $1 from e.l.f. and it's really good. I use this brush all the time. This is kind of a dupe for the Sigma E70 brush. And the e.l.f. one is a little smaller than the Sigma brush, but honestly, I prefer that. And I usually end up reaching for this e.l.f. one over the Sigma one, just because, you know, it's easier to apply inner corner highlight with this, and it's also easier to do the brow bone highlight with this brush as well. For the lower lash line, you need a good brush for smudging, and I have a couple of different options for that. So e.l.f. makes a smudging brush from their dollar brush line, which works really good. Now this brush isn't like extremely precise. It's kind of better for like more like smoking the eye, you know, the under eye area out. Also, the Professional Lip Defining Brush. This is also good for smoking eyeshadow out on the lower lash line. I know it says it's for lips, but I never use it for that. I always use it for like smoking out the lower lash line. If I had to pick between these two, I normally reach more for this one for smudging than this one, but either one of these are really good. If you want a brush that's more precise and is really gonna like put a very precise line, the Morphe M213 is really good. It's very precise, and this brush is $2 from Morphe, so it's not too expensive, and I use this brush a lot as well for my eyeshadow looks. Okay, then I guess really the last eyeshadow brush that I would recommend, I do have a few other ones. I guess I had one other one that I wanted to mention that I forgot to mention with the whole contouring thing. But you want like a good, really small like detailer type of brush for like getting products in your inner corner. I mean, I know you could use that angled brush, but sometimes you just need something super precise. So the Professional Concealer Brush from e.l.f. is a really good brush for that. Or if you get that Real Techniques brush set that comes with like these two brushes, that foundation brush, and then this little detailer brush. You know, this detailer brush is really good. It's the same sort of concept as the e.l.f. one, as you can see. But a brush like this is really good just because, like I said, you can use it for here. You can also use this to smudge outliner and stuff like that. So those are, well, hold on, I was going to tell you about that one last brush. So this brush here is the e.l.f. blending brush, and this brush, I love to use this for cream contouring products. So like something like this, like my Maybelline Master Contour V-Stick. Like if I was to apply this contour and then needed a brush to buff it out, this brush is so good for that. It's like a nice angled brush and it is very dense, so it's really good for like buffing. So I highly recommend this, especially if you're gonna be contouring a lot and things like that. This brush is really good for that. And like if I had to pick for like a contouring, like a more precise contouring brush between this one and the e.l.f. one, I would go for the e.l.f. one over this. I just tend to reach for this one more. So yeah, those were all of the affordable makeup brushes that I would recommend to a beginner. I hope that this video was helpful. If it was, please give this video a thumbs up and let me know down in the comments what other beginner type of videos you'd like to see. I think my next video I want to do, because I already did the makeup starter kit, I want to do a video where I do a beginner eyeshadow look using the brushes that I mentioned today in this video and the makeup, like the eyeshadows that I mentioned in my makeup starter kit. Like I want to use the products that I've talked about and then, you know, feature, you know, like do different things like eyeshadow look, brows, you know, highlighting, contouring, bronzing, foundation. So yeah, I want to do those types of beginner videos for you guys. So you just have to let me know what will be helpful for you guys. If you are new, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I post new videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. So yeah, I hope that you guys have a great day and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.